This is great. Okay. Thank you. We appreciate everyone that spoke. We thank you for your passion. We thank you for your contributions. We thank you for your love to the library. And now we want to hear from the City Council. And I just want to extend another request that you might hear something that you disagree with. And please just listen to us and let us just present our thoughts and make a decision. But thank you. We had 90 speakers, 20 did not wish to speak, but we appreciate everyone's comment, whether we agreed or disagreed with them. Thank you for sharing this decision with us. With that, I close the public hearing. First is Councilmember Gallo. We can go with questions to staff or LS&S or anything, and then we will move forward. We'll take a round. Thank you. Councilmember Gallo.
Are we going to do questions first?
Both. Every council, let them take the questions and then make the comments, and we'll move along.
Okay.
All right.
I'll take the first shot. First of all, thank you all for being here. I want to thank the Escondido Times Advocate and the Valley Roadrunner and the San Diego Union Tribune for sticking with us for the last 3 hours plus. I'm sure we're going to get some good stories in the papers. I just had a quick question for our city attorney. The California Education Code 18910. Mm-hmm. That was brought up by our very first speaker of the night. That was 3 hours ago.
Well, one of the problems I've had is I've just received this material, just like the letter from the ECEA lawyer. I got this 10 minutes before our hearing and haven't had a chance to review any of this. So I think when looking at, while I'm listening carefully to everyone's comments, if you look at 18910, it talks about management of the library by the Library Board of Trustees. That's going to remain in place. I don't know that what's being generally proposed here is going to be inconsistent with 18910. But I'd also give some caution, again, not having a chance to look at this, but Mr. Garrett has also included the Education Code section 19104.5 and included a copy of that here. And that doesn't apply here because that relates when you withdraw from a county system, and that's not what we're doing.
Okay. Now I brought that up because there's a lot of library systems in the state of California that are managed or operated by LS&S, and so I'm wondering, it's probably okay because everybody else is allowed to do it. Now, okay, I see a lot of heads shaking. You're all lawyers, and you're all saying that Ed Gallo doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Okay. I can buy that.
Okay. Please.
No, that's okay. I can take it.
That's okay.
I'm a big boy. I want to make some comments to contradict some of the stuff that you folks have been throwing out here. The first one, okay, I'll calm down. I object to the comment from some lady who came up here demeaning the social standing of the residents in District 1. I think it's obscene and it's totally uncalled for. You know what I'm talking about. Don't look yes, you do.
Excuse me. That's okay. We listened for 3 hours. Please extend the courtesy, even if you disagree. We appreciate your cooperation.
Let me keep going. There was another comment from people who said we had a 10-minute presentation and we weren't allowed to do it. I offered via email a suggestion to one of the group on how to accomplish that. You chose not to do that, but that's your choice, okay? So don't come here and tell me that you weren't allowed to make your presentation. What was it? This week. Somebody said, you probably don't even have a library card. I've had a library card in Escondido since 1973, okay? And I got my first library card probably when I was 5 or 6, probably kindergarten, first grade. I think that's when you get a library card, right? Something like that. So I've been a card-carrying American for a long time. There were some questions about, a secret memo. Someone emailed something about a secret memo. I don't know about a secret memo. I don't know when that came out. I have no idea. Well, send me the secret memo so I know what the heck you're talking about. And who was it from? Last week, somebody made a comment about the Riverside Library. She went up there at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the door was closed. Knocked on the door. Somebody came to the door, and lo and behold, let her in. She said the library was closed. And so the hours were 10 to 6.
Okay, excuse me.
So how does somebody working in the library in today's world, with all the terrorist activity going on, open a door to a stranger? That just didn't resonate with me.
Excuse me, I close the public hearing. Please let us discuss this issue. You had your 3 hours. It's our time. Please listen.
Let me tell you something. I sat here for over 3 hours listening to over 90 speakers. I never said a word, never grunted, never frowned, never did anything. I would expect at least half that much respect from you guys towards me. Okay? I don't think that's asking too much. I just get so tired of this crap. I've done some homework other than listening to staff reports and all this other kind of stuff. I've known the council member up in Temecula, well, actually since about 1975. He's one of the original council members. So I called him and I asked him his comments because LS&S runs the library in Temecula. Here's his comment. It's been a wonderful relationship through many years. I think they started operation, he doesn't say what year. Oh, I guess about 20 years. They were running our old library, which they still run, and then it was an easy decision to contract with them when the new Temecula library opened. Originally, we started working with LSSI when money was tight and our library was having to reduce hours. They took over operations, and through greater efficiencies, was able to restore full-time operations, et cetera, et cetera. So the bottom line is that I and many others would highly recommend LSSI. I also contacted the city manager up in Temecula, who I've known for a while, and asked him the same question, just your comments, okay? And he had his staff member who, I'm not going to mention his name, Director of Community Services, made some comments as well. And he talked about when he was in San Bernardino, they had some issues up there, and then I think LSS took over there. Then he went to Temecula, blah, 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 blah. Until I came to Temecula, and the outsourcing model is by design and works extremely well. If savings and efficiency are what's needed, then Escondido should consider. Our experience has been extremely positive thanks to the professionalism and expertise of our manager, Rosie. Again, LS&S can provide savings and library services. And I also forwarded this to our city manager, Jeff Epp, and because he made a suggestion about having, I think Jack Anderson was the one who broached the subject as well, having a staff member from the city be engaged in this entire process, and the continued operation of the library should be going that direction. And by the way, we're not signing a contract tonight, okay? All we're doing is giving, or maybe giving the go-ahead to our city manager and our city attorney to work with LS&S and the labor groups. I mean, there's a lot of hurdles to overcome yet, okay? We're not even going to have a contract next month, even if we start working tomorrow morning, okay? So I don't know why everybody's so concerned. The other thing that gets me is I don't understand why people who love the library and volunteer will not volunteer for a company who is operating the library. We outsource a lot of functions in this city. One of them that wasn't mentioned is we have outsourced our landscaping maintenance. Nobody complained about that. That's a city function. That's paid with taxpayers' money. It's a private company that's operating it. Okay? So what's the difference? And you know, I have been cautioned. I hasten to use the word threatened, but cautioned, I'll use that one, about the political repercussions in the 2018 election. That's not my concern. My concern is the health of the city of Escondido. Our charge as elected officials is to be the stewards of the treasury for the city. And that's what we're doing. Unfortunately, this will be a political football in next year's campaigns, okay? And it's unnecessary and it shouldn't be, but that's what it's going to be. The whole campaign for the mayor's office and the 2 districts that are up for election is going to be about the library. That's all it's going to be. Nobody's going to care about saving money. That doesn't matter. Let's see. Our interim librarian made a comment in an email about not being able to do previously opening Sunday hours because of staff turnover. And then I hear about from the people with LS&S takes over, we're going to have turnover. So either way, there's employee turnover. It doesn't matter who's running the place. Temecula, okay. Oh, this one here really got me. Someone sent an email to all of us about people not wanting to move to a city that has a library outsourced. I think, I'm not sure, but I think the people in Temecula will be a little bit upset when they hear someone from Escondido saying that it is not a place where people want to live. I'm just guessing now, but I think they'll be upset when they hear that. And I know Temecula is not a fancy place where people want to move to, okay? I understand that, because you have all said that. Acting like outsourcing. Oh. All the comments tonight were about that if we outsource the operation of the library, it will be nothing but a shell. Nobody's going to go there. There won't be any volunteers. And we'll end up shutting the doors. So if that's the case, you know, but you can't be afraid of change. You have to, God. I know when you object to a change, the easiest thing to do, the easiest job in the world is to be a critic, okay? Now, when things are changing and you don't like it, as human beings, we're territorial, okay? We don't like our yard messed up. When people come in to change things, the first thing we do is we stand back and say, hold on, Jack. Not you, Jack, but you know, just figuratively. That's what we do as human beings. That's our nature. But you can't not accept change. Change happens whether we like it or not. Right now, every one of us has changed in the last almost 4 hours. We all got 4 hours older. How's that feel? One thing everybody throws in about climate change and stuff like this, hey, I've heard so many times that on Sundays people have to drive to Rancho Bernardo because that's the only library that's open. Well, guess what? We're going to be open on Sunday. They won't have to drive to Rancho Bernardo. Less emissions, less global warming. Doesn't that make everybody feel good? Makes me feel good. I had, well, oh. Now, this has to be all vetted out, again, between our city attorney, our city manager, and LS&S, before we, and the labor groups before we even get into a contract. And we've all heard that the new operations model will offer more hours. They've pretty much guaranteed us that. And technology, updated technology, keeping pace with the world. Is this not what the community wants? Don't we want that?
Yeah,
And
please.
the other thing is, when the volunteers no longer support the library, that could potentially negatively impact those who we care most about, our children. I just want to leave you with a quote from Winston Churchill. I think most of you should know who he is. If not, you can go to the library and check it out. It's no use saying we are doing our best. You have got to succeed in doing what is necessary. What we're doing today is necessary. I mean, if you think $400,000 a year is chump change, who was it? Everett Dirksen said many years ago, Senator, you know, $1 million here, $1 million there, pretty soon you're talking real money. Well, for local government, $500,000 here, $500,000 there, pretty soon you're talking real money. That's it.
Thank you. Well, I don't have any requests from my council colleagues. I think I'll go second. I truly appreciate your passion and love to the library. I think we all share. If we have one thing in common, that we all care, love, and want to protect the library. And I spend hours and hours and hours looking into this change because I know how passionate you are about this. I do want to talk why. I mean, I have 4 reasons why I am supporting the LS&S, and I want to set the record straight on a few things and assure the community what the plan would be next. Let's put the financial charts, Jay. Let's put the sales tax revenue first. Your city council here have been working hard to build revenues because we know how important the library is, we know how important the public safety is, we know how important the other services are. You represent the library and the love to the library. Other groups in our community have love, the interest for them is public safety, the ambulance services. Other people have the environment. We have different interests in our city. I am very proud to say we have been working so hard to restore our sales taxes from 22 million to 36 million in the last 6 years. So it's not like we did not want to improve our revenues. And I think this is a significant achievement by your city council to really build the revenue substantially from the recession to a record level of $36 million. The next one. Here is the problem. Folks, I know it's a complicated issue. When we closed the East Valley Library, it was not an easy decision. And my passion right now is to not to let this happen again. I can tell you that we have an obligation of $20 million. 20 million. Our general fund is 100 million. Today, we have been struggling to accommodate the pension crisis. We have done pension reform, the city council, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and that's where the curve got down a little bit to 13 million, 13 million, and then went up again. Now, We gained, what, $12, $14 million in sales taxes to be overwhelmed with the pension crisis. This is a bill that we have to pay every month, every year. If we didn't have that problem, we wouldn't be sitting here today talking about that issue. The PERS have revised their return on investment from 7.5% to 7%. They have averaged 1%, 2%, 3%. I don't know what the figure is. And still the 7% by many economists feel that this is an overstated this. But I'm going to take the PERS. This is from our city finances, and this is from PERS. They told us we need to pay the bill. Between today and 4 or 5 short years, we have to come up with $18, $17 million. Let me repeat. We have today an obligation for $20 million. It's going to 22. Between 17 and 18, we're going to be faced with nearly $6 million. I don't want to go back and say, library, we're going to cut your budget by $500,000 or $200,000 and do this and that. We have a financial crisis that will threaten not only the library, but everything else. I'm not willing to cut the public safety or jeopardize the public safety, because this is the number one. I am putting the library's future next to the public safety in that priority. And we believe if we can protect the library for the next 10 years, we will not be talking about budget cuts at all, because we have a contractual obligation. This is $18 million that we're going to face in the next 4 to 5 years. Will not be there. So I don't want you to be here and say, why didn't you fix the problem? And I tell you that the library is not the only solution. And we're going to look at everything else. The next one, please. So this will include the pension, but this also include other increasing costs for city employees. That will include the increasing cost in healthcare. That will include the increase of workers' compensation. That will include an increase of Medicare and other things. So between today and 4 years from now, we need to come up with $18 million. Folks, this is a real threat. We are not the only city. We are financially good today. We are not the only city. We are better than most cities financially, because we have a balanced budget and we don't spend more than we make. But this $18 million has to come from somewhere. $500,000 or $400,000 is not going to solve that crisis. I agree with you. We're going to look at every single operation in our city and look for those savings. Next one, please. This, please trust me that this is in no way a disrespect to the hard-working librarians, volunteers, and everybody else. I just wanted to qualify my comments about where does our library stand. Again, I do appreciate my kids use the library here. My wife used the library here. You know, and this is very important. This is information that the grand jury wrote to us, and also some, okay, you disagree with it, that's fine. You know, I don't, that's fine. This is facts. These are figures that we have been presented with. And again, there is a lot of hardworking people in our library. They're trying hard to make it better. But the fact it is, there is an opportunity to make it better. And if we sit here, we say we have the best library, we cannot improve it, I don't think we can improve our library. It is ranked 1278 out of 1401 nationally, and it's below average on each performance measure. Program attendance is well below average in 2014. It's 33% below California state average. The circulation, well below average in 2014, 24% below California state average, and 41% below national average. Computer use, well below average and steadily declining since 2011, 48% below national average and 58% below California state average. I believe this is an opportunity to address those issues and increase users. LS&S, they have done it in Riverside. Okay, the next one. LS&S did it in Riverside, and I took the time to go and visit that library on Saturday and spend 2 hours at this library. I want you to look at the parking full. It is a top-notch library. I was impressed. I was inspired. I said, I want to improve Escondido Library to be like this library. I was there. I talked to about 25 people there, and I asked the question, is this a public library or a private library? 25 of them said it is a public library. I followed up with the question. I told them that this library is run by a private company called Libraries System and Services. Nobody said yes. They did not know who LS&S is. They are great library. They are top notch. The users are happy. Everybody is happy. I talked to the 25 people, and not one person said this is not a great library. Many of them said this is a great library. The last person I spoke to, they said, you know, this is one of the best I've ever been to. So my point is, LS&S was very transparent in the process, and I think you are telling us that we're giving this away. We are not giving this away. The savings are real, have been verified by our accountant, and what we did is we looked at the operation of the library, and we looked at the LS&S proposal. The $400,000 is a real savings. And if it's not in the contract, we're not going to sign the contract. Now, I just wanted to make sure that the grand jury report, which they send us, they say your library is deficient, and we took it as an opportunity to improve. And also we sent a letter, we all signed it except Councilmember Diaz, and I respect that because it did contain the word outsourcing, and that's fine. I don't have any problem. I just want to set the record straight about the petition. You talked about my polling and everything. I think it's a good thing for the mayor to just listen to the constituents and see what they feel. And yes, they do support the outsourcing. And also, the petition that you have taken, I got a copy, and thank you for Mrs. Abushanab to send me those information. I read the petition. It does not talk about the $400,000 savings or the extra day of opening. Your petition just talked about giving the library to a private company and losing control and everything else. So I just want to qualify that. Also in the grand jury report that some people reference to, that we have, the last 7 years we have made $4.4 million surplus. That is not true. And we did send it to the grand jury, correcting them. According to our audited financial statement, it shows that for 7 years we had $60,000 in surplus. Just want to set the record straight as well. And why LS&S can do this and save money and make a good, some profit. For me, I don't care about their profit. I don't care about this. I care about the savings to the city. If we don't do it today, then we're going to be cutting and cutting and cutting, and that will put the library at risk. I want to, by having this contract, will spare the library and will protect it from any cuts, even when we face financial crisis. The government cost compared to private sector cost is now 2 to 1. Every dollar that the private sector cost to provide services, it costs the public sector $2 because of the excessive pension. We are paying right now 20, and we're going to go to 37 million. We're paying to two layers of government, 3 layers of government. We're paying to past 10 librarians or 8 deputy librarians. We're paying for 2, 3, 4 police chiefs. We cannot afford them. This pension crisis is unreal. Now, what did we do to address it? You asked this question, and that's a fair question to ask. We did pension reform. We lowered the new employees to 2% at 50 and 2% at 60. That would be the lowest level allowed by the state. We asked our employees, all the staff, the city council, to pay their own 8%. So everybody pays their fair share. So what I'm trying to say, we're not ignoring the pension crisis, but we have done reforms to the lowest level possible under the state law. So I believe the risk is real. I believe LS&S will be a partner. I have witnessed myself the kind of libraries they run. I was impressed. I was inspired. And we have a good library. I agree with you, but it can be better. We can make it better. And if LS&S does not make it better, I will break the contract after 1 year. We are going to make them accountable. We will have a contract in our hand that we are in control of our destiny. We will not let you down. We are going to protect the library. We're going to improve the library, and that's my promise. If we pass this tonight, we will be the cheerleader leading the bond measure to pass a bond measure. And that's fine. That's fine. You're going to disagree. That's fine. I respect your opinion. I respect your opinion. The bond will not pass if we, June or April or May next year, we're talking here about $6 million deficit and trying to cut the library budget, and you're trying to pass bond, it's not going to pass. But once we say we have a financial stability, it is secured, it is moving forward, we will get it done. We have a difference in opinion, and that's okay. I believe in the experience I had, and also in the Temecula Library, I spoke to a lot of volunteers. They love it. It's for them. You do. You go to the library and volunteer because you love the library. And the library is going to be there. It's not going to change. You love it because you do it because you're passionate about it. And we will continue to work with our friends of the library. Elmer, I met with Elmer yesterday. Elmer, you asked me the questions about your $75,000 that you raised. And I asked this question to LS&S. And they said, not only this is your money and they spend it the way you want, but they can use their purchasing power to double maybe the value of this money and help you buy whatever you need. It is, we have questions from the community. I've been engaged with a lot of people, and I have been doing my due diligence. So we're going to have safeguards, folks. You know, this is an important thing for the community, and we're going to have a safeguards. But I don't want to go through the East Valley experience again. Okay. Yes, you don't believe me. But I'm going to be here next year and talking to you about how can we pay our bills with $5 million, $18 million we have to come up the next 4 years. This is real. Nobody has disputed that. This is real money that we have to pay, and we will be obligated to cut down services, and we have to make our community safe. We cannot take that risk. I believe one of the speakers have indicated that the Riverside had to do it because they reached a financial crisis. And that's very true. I don't want to be on a desperate situation trying to outsource the library. We want to do it at the right time when we can manage it. I do appreciate, you know, with the 35 years of LS&S services, I thought they had 100% renewal rate, but they told us here 96%. But this is very telling that with 83 libraries to local government, they have renewed almost every single contract for the last 35 years. And you're going to disagree, and I know that, but I think that should give all of us some assurance that these guys have done a good job. And you know what, if it was $400,000 only, I'll probably say, you know what, let's work hard and let's find something. But it's not only about the 400,000, it's about improving our library and saving it from future cuts. The partnership with LS&S will help us in the bond measure. They offer to help us with the bond measure. They offer to work with the community. They offer also to help us with the architectural design at no additional cost. When we are elected official here, and our job, we were elected to keep our city solvent, and that's what we're going to do. We cannot stand here and say we cannot pay the bills. This is not going to happen as long as I'm mayor. We have to keep paying our bills, provide public safety, and protect the library at the same time. My pledge to you tonight is that we will partner together and keep everybody working together. And let's come together and give it a try. If a year from now you are here and telling us it didn't work, you know what? We're going to make sure that this legal contract is protecting you and protecting our library. The rest, you can rest assured that I closed the public hearing, ma'am, and I'm not going to reopen it. Rest assured that the Escondido Public Library will remain Escondido Public Library. It will always be your library, and we're going to make it a better library. And thank you, and thank you. Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe I'm almost not sure where to start. I have notes, I have written comments, and after listening to all the testimony tonight, I'm not sure how much more I can add, other than I think that if the residents of Temecula if you place so much value on their opinions, maybe you should go represent Temecula, because tonight I heard from...
Can you please give excuse me, I'm running the meeting, okay? Give every council member the courtesy to speak and let them speak. I don't want anybody to be intimidated in this room. Please, let's move on with the process.
I also want to assure everybody that I'm not intimidated by anybody in this room.
Some people are.
I'm not.
Okay.
And so I'm speaking, and so I want to just say that I'm disheartened at some of the comments that I've heard from at least two of my peers, and I guess I had hoped for more. I always hope. I always have to fight till the very end about things that I believe in and things that I value, and the library is one of the most important city resources in my mind, and the most important resources for our community, for my kids, for our schools, for our teachers. I don't think it's just another operational department. If you had suggested outsourcing HR, I might not have said anything, maybe, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the heart and soul and core of our city services, one of the departments that sees the most individuals daily than any other department. Thank goodness we don't have police contacting residents at the rate of 1,500 people a day. That's a good problem to have. And I would argue that the library is a prevention measure as much as it is a community service measure. But I'm going to be off track a little bit, but I want to talk about the $400,000 savings. That sounds like a lot of money to an individual. Most of us don't make $400,000 a year. Most of us don't make that over several years. It sounds like a lot of money, but in the scope of what is our almost $100 million budget, it is less than half of 1% that you're trying to save. And the loss of goodwill, the loss of volunteer hour, the value placed on volunteer hours, I've seen estimates between $300,000 and $700,000, but the bottom line is a lot of that will go away. Not all of it maybe, but a lot of it will, because the people who are doing that work have come here to tell us they're going to stop. And it will be a long time before you can rebuild and renew that trust in that partnership. It doesn't just transfer easily because we don't control that. The value of donations from the public, either in materials or books or time, or the fact that they come to our library and purchase used books from our friends, and that's the money we then turn around to support a very large part of our book buying budget. I mean, those are all goodwill contributions, and that is going to be harmed. If not forever, then certainly in the near future, because we have heard, I know you didn't go to the library board meetings, but some of the people were there, some are new faces. We have heard directly from the people giving of themselves, their time and their talent and their treasure, that they're going to hesitate, and they're not going to want to do this. And then I think probably in my 9 years here, I've spent more moments like this than I've spent positive. But in thinking of all the wonderful people and certificates and presentations, all this, that's all good. But I've been inspired exactly one time in this council chambers, and that was by John Masson. One time when he said, we're going to go all out and we're going to build the best library, because that is what our city needs. It needs vision, it needs hope, it needs an urban core that's vibrant. And honestly, I wasn't going to run for a third term. I was done. I thought I had done everything I could. I ran because of that vision, and I thought, I want to help with that. Sign me up. Whatever it takes, I'll knock on doors, I'll raise money, I'll vote, I'll go tell people why it's important. And now I find myself like, I'm just wasting my time. So here I am, all these years later. One moment of inspiration is going to be completely washed away by a moment of false frugality and a misinformed purpose. So I just want to say, I guess, to John, don't waste my time, man. I want to help you. I want that vision. I want to go get it, and I don't want to do it this way, because what I also heard from the public is that if we move forward with LS&S, and I don't care about LS&S, I'm not invested in them. I don't want to hurt their feelings, but if we move forward with that, our community is not going to trust that we're going to have their best interest at heart, and the core constituency that we need to help us promote, support, and vote for and pay for that new library vision, we're losing them. That, to me, is the biggest travesty. I love the services. I love the services at the library. In my household, we have a house full of books, and we have computers and Wi-Fi, but you know what? My kids still like to go to the library, and they like to see what the displays are, and we go there for events, and I find it to be so vibrant. The very first morning I woke up in the city, and many of you have heard me say this because I say it every chance I get, the very first morning that I woke up in the city of Escondido, the first place I went with my daughter was the public library. And I think probably spent countless hours there with my children. I think Ceci, I see you. That is the first librarian I met in this city, because she was there working in the children's section, and she's still there. And I just find that to be the core of the city, to me, is the library. Now, maybe that's a little bit different than how you feel about the library, but that is truly how I feel, and how the hundreds of people that came, and certainly the 90, maybe 85 of them that spoke, feel about the library. And you don't want to turn your back on that because some guy in Temecula, who I don't even know who it is, told you that it works out great for them. I don't care about Temecula. The other thing I find myself, it's 9 years, I've never actually cried in council, but today is my first time. So I usually wait till I get to the car. So the other thing I wonder is, how are all of these cities, all of our neighboring cities, I looked up our PERS contribution rates. Our rates are actually a little bit lower than San Marcos and Vista, and I saw in the staff report that that's primarily because law enforcement services are outsourced to the county sheriff. And when I see a sentence like this, I become suddenly concerned, because this sentence will turn into an entire outsourcing of the police department project in a year or two. I mean, I just see that and think, okay, here it comes, right? You saw it here first. But when I see that, I think, okay, I don't hear other communities complaining about the burden of serving their residents the way that we do. We just complain about money all the time. And I'm an accountant. Let's just start there, right? I understand actuarial tables. I understand audited financial statements. I understand the budgets when we look at them. I understand how to stretch a dollar. But when I hear our rhetoric, and I compare that to like Vista, San Marcos, we're doing this Innovate 78 thing. They don't complain about serving their populations. They don't complain about their libraries. And I think, well, maybe we need to outsource ourselves to them. Let them manage us. I think, okay, if we're going to have a city manager who's as good as Carlsbad, because Carlsbad is a beacon to us, we want what they have. Maybe we want their ocean, maybe we want their money. I don't know what they have. We always talk about them as like a model city, and we want to be that. If we're going to be that good, and if we're going to have a city manager that good, be that good. They're not talking about outsourcing their library. They have pension issues that they need to deal with the same that we do. And I have ideas about how we're going to deal with that pension issue. Sometime next month, we have an actuary coming to give us an update. He's fantastic. We've had him here before. He comes and explains the pension situation to us. You should attend, because this is a critical issue, obviously, for a lot of city services. But what he says to us, he's come twice, he's coming next month, I believe. He always says, pension debt is like credit card debt. You're never going to get ahead of it by paying the minimums. You have to pay more on your principal. He has said that to us every time. We don't do that because it's usually hard to scrape up the extra money, but in the very near future, we're going to be getting some returns on old redevelopment money we invested that is going to be returned to us. That's somewhere around $13 million. There's a nice SDEG. Slap it down on that debt, because we're never going to get out of this if we don't get ahead of it. The California Center for the Arts was built on a bond issue, and we're about to finish paying that off after all these years, which means some of our general fund revenue won't be dedicated to that. So that frees up quite a bit of money. Maybe not all of it, but it's certainly more than $400,000. We have a lot of city assets, properties all over the city. Some of them we landscape, some of them we don't. Some of them are owned by the mayor, but that's a different story. But we have property that is not on the tax roll.
The American dream.
We could sell properties that are not currently being used and put them, first of all, back on the tax roll, and then take that cash in hand and put it down on our debt, on this pension liability debt, and we can get ahead of this. And there's so many other ideas. I really hope you do come listen to that actuary. I find him fascinating. But there are options to explore. But the problem here is that we're backing into it with picking the library as sort of the first place to explore this. We haven't done a comprehensive review of everything that our city departments could do to help us achieve our goal of not having a pension crisis. We haven't done that. We haven't engaged in that at all. So we're kind of doing this like random organized chaos approach. And I find that just really disheartening, because we're starting with the city service that clearly has strong support for all the right reasons, and we're picking on that one first, and I find that unconscionable. So not only is the $400,000, it's a questionable calculation in my mind, without all the supporting documentation. It seems more like we're making a decision based on a sales pitch than on a real, true, comprehensive analysis. Losing donations, losing volunteers. I heard tonight, just today, 2 significant issues that are legal challenges. 2 of them, we haven't explored any of that. I would love to give our city attorney, Mr. McGinnis, who I find to be very thorough and charming, and I know sometimes you forget that city manager used to be our city attorney. He's not our city attorney anymore. Mike McGinnis is our city attorney. I would very much like for him to have the opportunity to explore all of these legal challenge codes or whatever, and to tell us what kind of exposure we have now that we have been made aware of these things, because we've never talked about that. So I would very much like for him to come back to us and say, if we pursue this, this is the exposure that we have, the legal exposure. Now, if there's one thing Escondido does fabulously, it's get ourselves into legal challenges. And so my concern is that in the haste to give direction to allow the city attorney and city manager to negotiate a contract with LS&S, we might do that before we've finished exploring all of the legal problems that we could be making for ourselves. So I would like for us to not give direction to explore a contract. I would like us to give direction to go look into these law problems, legal issues, and report back to us whether or not we should even bother trying to negotiate a contract. I just think we're a little premature, out of order in some of the things we're doing. And I would love for us to just drop this altogether. That would be my first, just drop it. But I don't know that there's enough support on this council to do that. So there will have to be other avenues. There will have to be legal challenges. There will have to be political ramifications. And I can tell you right now, I'm not running for anything. I've given all I got. I don't want to be the mayor. I don't know that I even want to be here. But you have to pay attention to who does good by you, always. And I hope that we have a council majority, at least, that is willing to say, hold on, it just isn't worth the risk. It's not worth losing the opportunity for a new library. It's not worth losing the volunteers. It's not worth the reputation harm that we're doing. It's not worth the potential legal challenges. It's just not worth that for $400,000, maybe $400,000. It's just not. So for whatever articulate points I might have been able to make, I can just leave you with one thought, that I will not support this, and I will never support this. And if it moves forward, I don't think I can support the library bond. I just can't.
Councilmember Morasco, yes. Okay. Councilmember Morasco. Thank you. Okay. Councilmember Morasco, before Councilmember Morasco speak, Olga, we don't always agree, but I do appreciate your passion and love to the library. I think we both tried to contact the county and build one on things, so I do appreciate that. Councilmember Morasco.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that, and hope you all bear with me. I too want to acknowledge something, and because it's going to be important later on as I bring up point number 2, and that's the dedication, the sincerity, the passion that Ms. Diaz has in regards to the library and the city as a whole. And I know that it's important to her that people understand who she is, what she stands for, what her integrity is, that she is an honest, sincere, and trustworthy individual. And I think we all feel that, and that's important. It's important for all of us as individuals. Ms. Diaz and I, again, like the mayor said, we don't always agree, but there are times that I am so happy that she's on the council because of the insights and the history and the perspective that she brings. Tonight's not going to be one of those nights, not as it pertains to our decision regarding LS&S, but it's something else. And we will probably agree to disagree on this. Brothers and sisters don't always get along. Sometimes you fight, but it doesn't mean that you don't respect the other individual. Okay. Forgive me if I insult your intelligence, but you need to understand how many emails and text messages and phone calls and comments that we've received from the public, from some of you. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you understand civics for the most part, but so many comments that were made that were just so off base, not even close to being factual or pertinent to what we're talking about. So forgive me, this is something that has been eating at me now for, I can't tell you how many months. Months and months and months. And out of all the issues that I've dealt with over the past 6.5 years, I have not lost more sleep with any issue or decision that we've made than I have with this one. Every single night I wake up and I can't turn my brain off, because it keeps mulling these things over and over and over. And these are some of the things that are of concern to me. I know I'm not going to change anyone's opinion as to who their hero or heroines may be in the room tonight, but I just need to let you know that this is something that has really been important to me as an individual and as someone who takes pride in my word and my ability to be trusted, and in the stewardship that I have as a city council person. So first of all, Civics 101. The council manager form of government is a system of local government that combines the strong political leadership of elected officials, in the form of a council or other governing body with the strong managerial experience of an appointed local government manager. In this case, it's Mr. Epp. The role of the manager. The role under the city manager, under the council manager form of government, the city manager functions as the chief executive of the government organization, like a private sector CEO does for a company. The city manager oversees the day-to-day operations of the city and serves as the chief advisor to the city council. In directing daily operations of the city, the manager is responsible for ensuing effective and efficient government services. Every city employee ultimately answers to the city manager. So the manager has the right to hire and to fire staff as appropriate and allowable by law. As the council's chief policy advisor, the city manager recommends city policy for consideration by the council. The manager has a professional obligation to give complete and unbiased information to the council. The manager consults with department heads and the city attorney to ensure that the advice he or she gives is sound. Okay, now we know that the role of the city council is. The role of the city council, we're the legislative body, we're the ones that adopt the laws and the policies that help govern the city. Again, the city manager has the responsibility to run day-to-day operations. He doesn't need our authority on a day-to-day basis. He's got it. That's what he was hired to do. All departments, all programs, all services, all employees. His job includes investigating and researching any and all ways to improve services and efficiencies pertaining to the city and all staff, such as what was done in this particular case. To preclude that from happening is to say, city manager, you're not going to do your job. We don't want you to do your job. We don't want to know whether or not there's something out there that could potentially be better for our city. That's his job. He does it. Then he brings it to the public, everyone else. We have the opportunity to discuss, to digest it, and to decide whether or not that information provided is something that we want to implement for our city. That's exactly what occurred in this particular incident. And I don't want to steal Mr. Masson's thunder, but this all started not to highlight or to pick out or to go against the library. Hey, you can't leave, I'm talking. No, I'm just talking. Sorry. Mr. Masson went to the League of Cities. I don't know if Mr. Mitchell, Graham Mitchell, our previous city manager, went there or not, but when you go to these things, there's vendors and there's people there all the time talking about services that they can provide for the city. Every single day. Every week, I should say, we get dozens and dozens of solicitations of people who want to offer things for the city, and not always things that we're interested in. Mr. Masson brings the information back, gives the pamphlet to Mr. Mitchell, who, prior to his departure, at least starts the process of finding out more about outsourcing of library services to an entity such as LS&S. Mr. Epp inherited that, okay? It wasn't something that he came in and said, oh boy, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to totally put Escondido on its head and get rid of the library and privatize it and everything else. This was something that his responsibility as city manager is to investigate possibilities. And again, that's his job. Nothing covert, nothing clandestine, nothing secretive. It's what a good city manager does. All right, and don't think you know which way I'm going with this, because I just want to lay the groundwork. The city manager does not wet his finger, stick it up there to see what's happening politically before he starts his research to see what could potentially be better for the city. As he has stated, he wanted to know if this particular option was at all viable, if it had any anything substantial to offer our city, and whether or not there was any merit to their claims. If none of what he learned was deemed favorable, he would not even present it to the community or the city council. But if, on the other hand, he and staff discovered a substantial potential benefit to the city, that information would be presented. It's not the other way around. Okay, as he has stated, this information would be presented and shared with staff, with the library board, with the Friends of the Library, with the Library Foundation, with the community as a whole, and with the city council. That's the way the system works. Now, I'm really naive. My assumption is we all kind of feel that way. We all understand that that's the government system that we've chosen, and that's what we're part of. That's what we were elected to. Now, from my opinion, I think that this process was hijacked. I think it was hijacked by an individual who, through passion, circumvented this process because of concerns. Obviously, there were deep-hearted, sincere, felt concerns, but we'll never know what would have happened had the city manager had the opportunity to proceed as the city manager had intended to proceed, because again, that process was disrupted. And in that process, and again, people hear what they want to hear, people believe what they want to believe. Let me ask a question. How many people here believe that I am, by show of hands, that I'm a member of the city council majority? If you believe that, if you feel that way. Okay. So when someone says the majority, you think Masson, Morasco, Abed, Gallo, okay? We vote as a block. We actually have connected by the mind. We don't think separately. We only think as a group of four. I understand that's the way you want to believe. The truth of the matter is probably 95, 96% of the time we all vote 5-0, okay? There are times when we don't agree. There are times when believe it or not, when the mayor and Olga actually voted for the same thing and the rest of us didn't, or vice versa. It depends on what the matter is. This is a very important, passionate, and serious matter. We don't consult with each other as to what's going on and how we're going to vote and what we're going to do. We actually study it out. Now, I consider myself an honest, a trustworthy, and a faithful person, as well as a steward to my responsibility on the city council. My name and my reputation are very important to me. And I'm sorry if I'm boring you guys, or are you just tired, Loretta? I obey the laws and the rules to the best of my ability, and I strive to do what is right. Like most people, when someone states otherwise, when someone states that I'm not trustworthy and I'm not honest and I'm dishonest and I'm doing things secretly or behind your backs, I take offense to that. And that bothers me, and it upsets me. And upsets me to the point that I lose sleep over it. And I don't like people telling me how I'm going to be voting, what I've done, in particular when what is being stated could not be further from the truth. Now, this is important because a lot of people were sucked into a scenario of, oh my gosh, it's a done deal, there's some secret meetings going on, blah, blah, blah. You guys have all heard it. When this started, months and months and months ago, I literally sat there thinking, what the heck are you talking about? I had no idea. I couldn't even told you who LS&S was. I had no idea. I couldn't tell you where they came from, what they did, where they did it. But from your mouths, from people's mouths, dozens and dozens and dozens, if not 100 or more, letters, emails, text messages, phone calls. I've been told by another council person that you are dishonest, that you can't be trusted, that what you're doing is X, Y, and Z. I go, that's not true. It never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, I can tell by the fact that you're protesting, methinkest thou protestest too much, that you are guilty, and I believe the other council person, I don't believe you. Didn't matter what I said, didn't matter what I did. My name, my integrity, my ability to be thought of as a trustworthy steward is out the window because of someone else's presentation, someone else's interpretation of what was stated. Now, having said that, and having calmed down multiple degrees since then, okay, Ms. Diaz did mention in the article that she has raised the council majority's ire. The only ire that's been raised from me has been that particular issue of being told, that the public being told that I did something inappropriate, illegal, secretive, that never happened, and that I'm untrustworthy, and I cannot be trusted to make a decision, okay? That's bothersome. And I hope you understand my passion on that particular issue because it means a lot to me. It means a lot to my family. It means a lot to my kids and everyone else who know me, okay? So I'll get that over with. I can't even repeat all the things that I was accused of in these emails. I've written some of them down. It's not even worth going over. I can tell you one thing, though. The vitriol from many of the individuals who contacted us is really astounding and beyond description. And I can, to some degree, understand Mr. Gallo's frustration as he was expressing his concerns about this entire process and what has happened. Again, at the time that people were telling me all these things that I had already done in regards to this decision, I can tell you that Mr. Epp, as our city manager, had not told me one single thing in regards to this, because the process had just started. And he didn't tell me any stats, any information, or anything else, because he didn't have any. He didn't even know at that time, when we were being told by many of you, that this was already a done deal. I'm really stubborn, and I don't care if it's the mayor or who it is, saying that, this is important, this is how we do it. I like to make my own decisions, and I like to make my decisions based upon the information that I receive, the study that I do. Believe it or not, there's not just one person up here who reads all the materials, okay? Spend a lot of time reading and studying and asking questions and attempting to find out everything I can about a matter before I put my stamp on it, because that's important to me. I know that I've made some errors in some of my decisions, but they haven't been based upon whimsical decisions or emotions. They've been based upon what at the time I believed was the best thing for us to do as a city, as a whole, for all of us as citizens of Escondido. I've lived here longer than any of these guys. I've been here since, we moved here in 1967, okay? Been an integral part of the community.
Gallo was before you.
What's that?
Ed Gallo was before.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He's just old. He wasn't here before me. He's just old. Okay. I don't know. I think I've served in public office longer than anyone here as well. Maybe even Mr. Gallo. 18 years? How long? 16? Well, I'm closing. I'm going into 18 years.
He's still older.
At any rate, so I know he is older and he has better stories. The fact of the matter is, I want you to understand that, like tonight's decision, this isn't something that is just, oh, this is a slam dunk done deal. I mean, we're still getting information today that I find extremely pertinent to the choice and the decision that we're asked to make tonight. Some of the things that were brought up, and I have a couple of questions. I guess I'll end my diatribe, although I have like 4 more pages. If you really are interested, I'd be more than share that with you. Yeah. The legal issues, that concerns me to some degree. I'd like to have the answers before I'm voting on something. Could you put up the outsourcing slide, Jay? It may take a minute, but again, this is one of those things I just have to get off my chest. We outsource up the wazoo in the city. It's what we do. We have no choice. We have to do it. Every city around here does it. Olga was the one that brought up, the sheriff's department is being considered an outsourcing for a lot of different cities. But if you look at this, I pray that I never get so senile that I think that way regarding our police and fire. The city of Escondido currently outsources animal control, California Center for the Arts, Rady Creek Golf Course, waste and recycling, financing, audit. It goes on and on and on. You guys get the idea. We're asking for RFPs? No. What are they called? RFQ? Yeah. At any rate, when requests for proposal, RFPs, all the time. And every time that we get one of these big bids that come in and it's not from someone local, none of us like it. But we go with it because that's what we have to do. And we see tax. How many times have you said that, Olga? Every time we buy cars or whatever it is. You hate to see those dollars leave the city, but it happens. So many of the services that we have, including our banking and our insurance and everything else, those are Escondido tax dollars that go to entities that are outside of the city of Escondido. It's just part of life. It happens. It's not perfect, but unfortunately, that's the way the city business is run, and we don't have a lot of choices. Sometimes the services that we want aren't found right here in the city of Escondido or the state of California, and we have to look far and wide to be able to have those services provided. Now, by show of hands, okay, this isn't a commitment, but how many people here would like to see the library stay just the way it is? Okay. That's commendable, but personally, I would really, there's a couple of things I want. One, I want more hours at the library, and I want 7 days a week, okay? Now, is that possible? I'm sure it is possible. Would we save $400? Well, we probably wouldn't save $400,000 a year. But that's what I want. What else I want? I want the library cleaned up. I want the library looking like it should. And in all honesty, what I really want is for us to have the appropriate type of library facility that the city deserves, okay, that the citizens deserve. I've been in libraries throughout the world, throughout the United States, throughout, I can't tell you how many cities in California, Arizona, Nevada, the western United States, Utah, and no offense, the Escondido Library facility is one of my least favorite facilities out of all the libraries I've been to. It bugs me, but that's just my OCD, okay? It bothers me. I would love to see that changed. Do I feel, getting ahead of myself, but I'll come back to that. Please understand that the library is not being singled out and picked on and say this is going to be our test, the first pancake of the day to see if it's good or not, or if we're going to throw it out and try again. It just happened to come out that way, but there are multiple other services and other things that we've done over the years regarding outsourcing. This is not picking on the library. It just happens to be the one that we're talking about tonight. Now, this is where I've really struggled. I don't believe in the end justifies the means. I don't have the activist gene, okay, in me. I don't say that it's a bad thing. Olga's done extremely well in her life having the activist gene. I don't have the activist gene, which means I don't truly understand the activist mentality. I don't understand the process that people go through when they think, oh my gosh, this is something I'm so passionate about, I'm going to set the world on fire, and it doesn't matter how I do it or what I say, as long as I get what I want in the end, okay? So we differ in that sense. I just don't comprehend it. I also know that just like no matter what these guys said tonight, or what there are probably some people in the audience, no matter what Olga says tonight, it's not going to change their opinion about what they think about Olga. No matter what some of the other council members say, it's not going to change your opinion. People who hate are still going to hate, okay? People who choose to be ignorant are still going to be ignorant, okay? We can all stick our heads in the sand, but we have a choice to change. But there's something else that's not going to change. The few who are sincere will help solve and resolve, okay? No matter what we say tonight, there's people here that are going to say, well, come hell or high water, I'm going to do the best I can to make sure that our city is taken care of, whether it's library or graffiti removal or whatever it may be. So, having said all that, I've been a little bit torn between my head and my heart and my gut. My head says, well, this is a great thing to do. This is something that could give us, a cleaner, nicer facility and give us, the appropriate staffing and give us, money in the bank and money that we could put towards another library and money that we could do a lot of different things with. The brain says this is a logical choice based upon all the information that we receive. Lovely testimonials there from the individuals who actually have been there and have worked with the system and know how it works. So you hear that in my mind as like, well, Loretta, sorry. But that's where my mind is. Now my heart is saying there's got to be a way that the current library heads, departments, that the people can come up with a way to work this out, because what we're asking for is, in particular for loyal staff, and this is hard regardless whether you're in private practice or in working in this setting. You're asking for individuals to swallow a very bitter pill. This is something, we're really sorry, but these are the cuts that we have to make, and we've all been there, that are in business when you have to make those choices and decisions. It's not an easy thing to do, and my heart says there's got to be a way around that. And then there's my gut, and what my gut's saying is whether or not the head's right, the mind's right, or the heart's right, there's still this underlying current that could be extremely problematic as far as what I believe needs to be done with the library. And that would be a bond and a new library built on a new location. The other thing, going back to the heart for a second, there are individuals here in this room who have had opposing views as to what LS&S is proposing, who I have the utmost respect and love and admiration for. That also affects the heart decision. It's like, wait, golly, the mind says this, but these are people who I know and I trusted for decades who feel that maybe there's a better way and another way of doing it. I'm still not convinced personally that the county system couldn't work because of the fact that there is currently a library head who is very proactive in regards to the construction of new libraries. So that's enticing. I don't know, because I don't have the answer as to whether or not there may be a wash down the road if a relationship like that came to fruition. I'm concerned about the people who have said they would sabotage the bond. I mean, in all honesty, because that's what it would be. It'd be like saying, I'm going to sacrifice my child because I didn't get my way. That's your prerogative. I understand. There's no amount of speaking that's going to change your mind on that. I'm just telling you, I just don't think that way. I think that we need everyone working together. And I understand fully, and my gut tells me that if we make this decision tonight, that we could potentially be creating some problems and issues for ourselves that we're not perhaps seeing at the moment. So anyone who thinks that I made a decision on this 4 or 5 months ago, however long ago it was, when all this started, 3 months ago, 4, whatever it was, you're very wrong. Because I got to tell you, the battle's still going on. And I do have questions. I would love to have. Here's the other thing we didn't learn until till today, that the contract, as was stated earlier, has yet to be constructed or vetted. Now, do I have a high degree of confidence that if it were to occur, that it would be a contract that would be satisfactory, extremely satisfactory to the city? I do. I have that confidence. But because it's not here in my hands, there's that part of my gut that's saying, is there any way that we can get to that point before we make this decision? Because we may wind up saying, there's no reason to make this decision because we can't agree on a contract. I don't know. I don't know if it does us any good to kick this can down the road, because I'm not the one that likes to kick a can down the road just to delay it. If we were to kick it down the road, it would be so we had all the ducks in a row before we committed to do it. And like I said, I still have some doubts in the back of my mind in regards to outsourcing versus county library system. So with that in mind, I will turn the time over to Mr. Masson and continue to mull things over. But I appreciate your patience in listening to me. I hope you understand where I was coming from and that I made myself clear. Thanks.
Councilmember Masson. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. There's clearly a lot of passion in the room and up here at the Diaz. I think we all want the same thing at the end of the day, and that's a vibrant library that we can all be proud of, and that can continue to serve our citizens well into the future. You know, it's I'm passionate about the library. I own 2 library cards. Haven't been there in a while, just because of being so busy, but the vision and the dream of a new library expanding Grape Day Park is alive. It's real. We need to be there as a community. We need to get there as a community. I am a little concerned when you hear that, you know, if this does go forward, that, you know, there's going to be people against that. I think that's kind of the wrong way to go. What I heard, the concerns I heard going from the community tonight, I'm just going to go through them because I wrote them down as I heard them. Concerns with access to services, concerns with the level of service, concerns about loss of control, concerns about accountability and transparency, concerns about our tax dollars going out of the city to a for-profit company, concerns about legal issues, which I think we need to address. There's a concern about the library as part of who we are as a community, and it's, you know, made up of our community, and that is true. But the library is also made up of staff who come and go. We've had turnover rates through our library for years. The people come and go, librarians come and go, directors come and go. Because these directors come and go that are hired by our city manager, that doesn't change our library. It doesn't change who we are as a community. And the public doesn't have input on who those directors are that come and go. It all happens just naturally through the system. Loss of public support for donors is another concern. I'm hoping that as a donor, when I donate my time and my service, which I do a lot of in our community, I do it for the benefit of the recipients. I do it for that. That makes me feel good. I'm giving back to my community. I'm not donating my services to the city. I'm not donating it to the public entity or a private entity. I'm donating it to the children, to the park, to the whatever, to my Rotary service, whatever it is. I'm not donating to an entity. I'm donating to the people who are recipients of whatever we're doing. So it sort of irks me to hear that if you're a volunteer and you're donating, whether it's through literacy services or helping kids out or helping adults out, it irks me to hear that you would change your heart and your donation just because there's different people running the operation. I mean, that to me is insanity. Why would you do that? Why would you go against a library bond to build a new bitchin' library of the future just because we have a private company operating it? I don't understand that mentality, and maybe it's the activism thing. I can't get that into my head. I just went over that. So going forward, you know, we're not giving direction to do a deal today. I think the direction is to negotiate with our employee unions, to enter into a negotiation with the contract with LS&S, and then bring a contract back to us, back to the community that we can all look at and review. So for me going forward is there's some things that we need to deal with, the legal issues. I'd like to see the contract. I want to know where the accountability is. I want to demand accountability. The only reason to do this is to make our library better. That's the only reason. Only reason in my mind. The money savings is great. It's going to contribute to us going forward. I'd like to take that savings and reinvest that into our library and expanding that into the park. Parlay that investment, that savings, into our library. So we need to demand accountability. We need to demand metrics. We need to figure out where we're at now with the metrics that I think the mayor had them up on the slide. These are where we're at, where we stand based on these metrics that are available publicly. Here's where we're starting. This is where we're going. That's in the contract. That's accountability. That's to the public. Our library board still manages that process, still manages the program, still is in control of our community's wants and needs. That's part of that accountability as well. That goes in the contract. Benchmarks, program attendance, volunteer hours, circulation, computer use, visits, all these things have data that show, I think it's up through 14 that we have right now today. We start with those as benchmarks, and as we move forward, we need to be hitting those benchmarks. If we're not hitting those benchmarks, we need to reconsider what we're doing. I think maintain the Pioneer Room definitely needs to be in the contract. That's a very important part of our community. The fact that LS&S will offer all of our people jobs is a great thing, and I think that's part of the contractual piece that we put out there. We obviously want to keep our good people if we can. If they choose to stay with them, or if they want to move and migrate into another city position, I guess that's their choice. And then I think continuing to develop programs and build on successful programs that we have today is going to be an important part of that metrics as well. So I think there's a way for us to all get what we want, and this has been a frustrating process, as evidenced by Mr. Morasco and Ms. Diaz and the mayor, all of us up here. We haven't been able to have a community dialogue about this in public, back and forth. We still can't. It's you say your stuff, we say our stuff, and a couple emails flying back and forth here and there. And like Councilmember Morasco just said, we just got information tonight, more data. So we're all trying to bring this all in, do what's best for our community to move us all forward. And what I'd like to see us do is keep it moving forward, keep the public engagement going, look at what we can do to get our contract rolling with this, look at what the deal terms are, make sure we have accountability and all these metrics built into the system, deal with the concerns of the constituents. I've had phone calls and texts and emails from folks that are saying, hey, this looks like a good deal to me. I think we should be doing it. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Well, I'm still, getting the information and sorting everything out myself. So that's kind of where I'm at on this. I want to build a new library. We need to go to the community and get a bond to make this happen. This needs to happen for our city, and we can make it happen. And I don't think if we end up hiring LS&S, or if we end up staying, the way it is, I don't know that matters in the grand scheme of things. What matters is the passion, the commitment of our community getting behind our library, period. Doesn't matter who's checking out books and being the librarian and helping our constituents out. It's the library, it's what we want to move forward with, and I think we can all get on the same page with a little bit more time, a little bit more investment in moving this thing forward, and I would be in favor of going forward with
Is that a motion?
opening this up. Yeah, I would move. I think staff's recommendation
One,
was
2, and 3. 1, to authorize the city manager and city attorney to negotiate a contract with LSS. 2, to authorize staff to engage with good faith negotiation with the city employees as well as LSS, and come back with a proposal to be considered with the city council.
the contract would come back to council. It'd be available for public review, and we'd be able to look at all the accountability measures that are part of that contract.
Okay, push the motion, and I need a second. Yeah, I will get to you.
We can discuss it afterwards.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, okay. I have a motion, I need a second, and we'll discuss it. I have a second by Councilmember Gallo. Discussion, Councilmember Diaz.
Thank you, Mayor Abed.
Sure.
I wanted to circle back to a couple of things. Mr. Masson, Deputy Mayor Masson, indicated that we haven't been able to have a real discussion about this. We can. We can set up a workshop. We can set up all kinds of different public outreach tools. We can have a committee. There's a lot that we haven't done because of the clunkiness of a process that was never truly a public process. We are just think about when we did the general plan update. We had committees, we had meetings, we were on tour, we went to the school district, the hospital board, any place that would listen to us to discuss, to gather input, to produce a plan that could then be brought forward to the council for final approval and then ballot approval. We can do all of that stuff if we give direction to do it that way, and if that becomes the standard of how we engage the community. None of that happened. And so part of the suspicion, both mine and the community's, has been validated by the fact that you go from saying, no, we're not doing something, to suddenly, oh my gosh, we're doing something, right? And there were those elements of They just told me they weren't doing it, and now there it is. And so a lot of that suspicion was driven by the fact that we had a very poorly planned and executed public process. In fact, we're still clunking our way through it right here tonight. So we can change that anytime we want. You can give direction to go back to the drawing board and do that full engagement and figure out all the details. My personal perception right now is that the longer we prolong this with this uncertainty, the harder it gets for people to believe that we're capable of doing any of this. For me, and it's not the activism gene, it's more about the fairness gene. I don't want to give money to that company. So there are these elements that you don't have to understand. I'm explaining, hoping that somehow, I'm not out to sabotage anybody. I'm not out to sabotage the library, but I never vote for things that take my money and don't take my input or my feedback, right? That's when we put out a bond, whether it be for a police department or for any kind of public works, we're asking people to do this because it's a necessary thing that we need, but people make choices, and passing a bond is difficult in any circumstances, and we're making it even harder and then pretending like it's a non-issue that people shouldn't be concerned with. It is a real issue. It's a real issue to me. It's a real issue to hundreds of people who have spoken to the fact that they feel like it's an issue. So, you can't sweep it under the rug. I know there's a motion on the table. I'm not going to support this motion. If it fails, my motion would be that we first have our city attorney evaluate what I consider to be significant legal threats that will cost us money, probably more than we're trying to save every year.
I think they're going to do that as well.
That's part of it.
Right. No, do that first before you give direction to start negotiating a contract and negotiating with employees, because we're simultaneously negotiating an LS&S contract and negotiating with employees and trying to figure out the legal ramifications and still having a pension issue that we don't have our heads around. All of this stuff is happening. It's chaos, and we can do better than that. I know we can. I know we have skilled, capable people. And with regards to library staff, it kind of does matter who's delivering those services. That's the whole point. It does matter. And the people want it a different way than I don't want to say you don't value it, but you feel differently about it. It does matter to a lot of people. If it doesn't matter to you, that's okay, but it does matter to a lot of people. And that is the crux of the issue that we have right now. So, I'm not going to support this motion. If this motion fails, maybe there's another one that we can work on, but I cannot support moving forward with this at this time.
Councilmember Morasco.
So, do either those individual who made the motion or second the motion believe that we gain anything by waiting until a couple of these questions are answered prior to moving forward? I know we don't want to replicate what happened tonight, but there are also a couple of questions that have come up today that have yet to be answered.
Let me just weigh in a little bit. I disagree, Olga, with the process. We have had a lot of meetings. We have been for 3 months. Excuse me. For 3 months, we have been going through the public process. We have had 2 meetings at the library with a lot of people attending and expressing their opinion and everything else. We listen. We get the feedback from the city manager as well. So we have gone through the process. Now, we will find out pretty soon, probably tomorrow or the day after, whether there are legal issues. And if there are legal issues, we'll probably stop the process. We are going to...
we do that?
And I think Mr. App or Mr. McGinnis, if there is anything that will really say, council, you cannot do it, then we can come back to the council and say we are not able to do it.
If based on our review, we can't do it, there's some statutory prohibition
Right.
from doing it, we're going to tell you can't do it.
Right.
In other words, we're not going to advance as a recommendation a contract that we believe is inherently valid.
And I believe that we are going to look at the contract and have a safeguards that the accountability, the transparency that everybody talked about. I need the safeguards. I am not going to just leave it to the LS&S and say, you know what, good luck, 5 years. No, we're going to have a strict contract and we're going to bring the contract to you. I promised some people that I met with that I will give you the contract to look at and make sure that we have the safeguards. give us a chance and let's move forward together. That's fine, I appreciate it, thank you.
And I want to know also your idea, Mayor, about a one-year contract. I'm not sure LS&S wants a one-year contract. I'm not sure that's possible.
I'm
That
not
would-
saying one
No,
contract.
but that's what you said earlier, so I'm
I said, if they don't deliver according to the contract we want, when we have full control, then we can break it, and that will be a breach of contract, and we can break it anytime. So that's fine. Okay, Councilmember Masson, anything else, or we need to vote? Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Masson. I have a second by Councilmember Gallo. Please vote.
So sorry. It didn't work. Gives you a second chance.
Can we try that again?
Okay, I need a motion, and I need, okay, a motion by Councilmember Masson, a second by Councilmember Gallo. Okay, please vote now.
3 yes votes, Diaz and Morasco voting no.
Okay, we'll move forward, and item 11, future agenda. Any comments, council? Okay, no comments. Council member subcommittee reports. I think we are tired. We'll move on. City manager's weekly activity report and oral communication. I don't have any requests. The next meeting is September 20th. With this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.